Good morning. So we are back for our third week of our Keys to Revenue webinar series at Regal. We will give everyone just a minute or two, and I'll go ahead and get our presentation set up here. All right. Everyone seeing my screen? Awesome. Cool. So yes, this week we are going to dive into local and home services. So over the past couple of weeks, we've touched on insurance for Regal and healthcare for Regal. Now we're going to jump in the next 2 weeks today with Michael on our local service implementations and sales. And then next week, closing out our series, we're going to do banking and financial services. So again, these are all great verticals for Regal. We're so excited that everyone could jump on and join us. And later this week, we are in, and by later, I mean tomorrow, we'll be in Utah at the Telarus headquarters for a fun lunch and learn. We have a big food truck coming to join us that I know has tons of different cuisines. So excited for that. Hopefully it's not snowing. I know it's freezing here in Dallas, so I can only imagine. But yeah, we're going to jump right in. So I do have Michael on with me. He is our sales rep who does focus a lot on our local services vertical. We'll go through the presentation of who we are, what we're doing here at Regal, and then jump into a couple case studies with him. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, just go ahead and type them into the chat. Yeah, and sounds good. So we'll kick it off. So Regal, I think if you've joined us before, you're going to join us again today, but Regal is an end-to-end contact center solution specifically designed for outbound teams. So any agents that you have in the contact center today that are reaching out outbound, they're calling their own customers. They have that outbound engagement. That's where Regal is the best fit. So our co-founders, Rebecca and Alex, actually came from a local services company, Angie's List, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, and they ran the contact center at Angie. And what they found was using a lot of these big traditional CCaaS and contact center technologies, it's really a one-size-fits-all model for any kind of outbound efforts. These technologies are built for inbound customer service and customer support. So they would go back to, their main contact center contacts about the technology and say, hey, instead of these lists of phone numbers that we can hand agents and call them all day, every day, call them at 8, call them at noon, call them at 4 for the next couple of weeks. This isn't getting us anywhere. This is not a personalized touch. Nobody knows who we are when we're calling. Nobody's picking up the phone. So we're having a lot of difficulty, converting our sales, actually talking to people about what they were just on our website asking about. So they actually broke off and created Regal for just that purpose of, well, instead of just taking a list of phone numbers and calling them at all hours of the day and just, hoping somebody picks up the phone, what happens if we turned that into a really customized personal approach? And we called them from a number that they knew. The Angie brand showed up on the phone when you dialed the number out. Or what if it was a really strategic text of, hey, Michael, we just saw that you were on the website looking for an electrician. Can we help you with that? We're happy to give you a quick call. You can see how if you're getting some random number, or especially some number that says spam likely, no one's answering the phone. But if it was that workflow where it was extremely customized, you'd be way more apt to pick up the phone. And that's what we see with Regal. The average answer rate at customers today, really focusing right on local services, insurance, healthcare, financial services, they see about a 3 to 5% answer rate. So all that calling, only about 3% of the time people are picking up the phone. With Regal, when you make it that personalized workflow, you see about a 30% answer rate. That's the average with our Regal customers. So right there, that's like a 10x ROI. That's huge. So when you think about why am I presenting Regal? Why am I taking Regal to my customer? Well, first and foremost, do they have an outbound effort? We have to, establish that, yes, they have a team that's dedicated to outbound outreach. But more importantly, once they do have that team, how are they connecting? How can they get people on the phone more? But not only getting them on the phone, how are they converting these sales? Can they do that more and more effectively by empowering the agents? And then we always want to test to make sure what we're doing makes the most sense. If we're branding your calls, if you're adding multiple channels of email and text messaging to those voice calls, are these outbound efforts working? So the Regal team will be there with you from a customer support standpoint to always test what's working from like a, yes, we want to do more of this. Maybe we want to do something different than this, things like that. So again, I can't stress this enough. Where does Regal fit? Do you have an outbound team? This might be referred to as a sales team or a customer facing team. Think business to consumer. Or just do you have agents that their day to day is calling outbound? If the answer to those questions are yes, that's a fit for Regal. If the answer to those questions are no, we only use our contact center for inbound, transparently, not a fit for Regal. We really want those customers to have that outbound effort. And then to dig in deeper, so you can further qualify of, okay, you have an outbound team. Are you having difficulty getting people on the phone? Would you like to see a lift in your answer rates? Would you like to try those multiple channels? Are you just calling today? Would you like to see if text messaging would help? Do you want one place for these agents to live? Again, this is not a competitive tool to your traditional CCaaS. We have a lot of customers out there that keep their NICE inContact, their Genesys, their Five9s of the world, and they keep that for customer service and inbound support. They peel those outbound focused agents off, and those agents live in Regal. So this is not a on top of solution. This is a I'm working alongside of, specifically for those agents that are focused on revenue, getting people on the phone, contacting people from an outbound effort. I know this is a lot on this slide, but we don't really need to focus on the whole thing. You don't need to memorize this. But from a Regal perspective, this is the Regal way, the Regal solution. If you had all of these things, you'd give your agents the best experience to do the best at their job, in addition to the customers are having a great CX, right? They're getting extremely personalized and customized workflows. So if we go back to those 3 reasons of Regal, how are we connecting our customers? We're starting to brand the calls. We're taking away those little phone tags that say spam likely. I know we all are too familiar with when you get those calls, you just immediately decline them. So that's like the first place that we start. Maybe we start adding again those text messages and that customized workflow of, okay, Michael's on the website. He's saying something or he's like researching, maybe looking up a couple of things. I can send a text specifically that deals with what he was just doing that then maybe prompts a call. That's just specifically for Michael. You know, Cortland could be also on the website doing something else, but maybe his isn't urgent. Maybe he's looking for, you know, to apply for a mortgage loan, but in 6 months from now. So maybe I trigger his workflow to say, great, let's send him an email with these information and then maybe schedule a call in a couple of weeks to touch base, as this is a lower priority, but we don't want to lose his information. So all those different workflows are something that can happen in Regal that can't happen elsewhere. So who are we looking for as a customer? The idea, right, if we flick back to this connect as the first piece, this is a land and expand type of deal. So we want to get in there and we want to look at, can we help you brand your calls? Can we take away the spam? Can we look at maybe adding some text messages? A really easy entry point that customers are like, yeah, we're not getting people on the phone. This is really difficult. That would be a big help. Then we can look to add the other Regal services, you know, completing that Regal way. Again, this is for the agents that are outbound focused. So it's going to be a smaller subset. It's going to be those outbound sales teams. That's where Regal is the fit for. So you're looking for high call volumes with, again, those dedicated outbound agents. Who do we want to meet with? I know a lot of people are meeting in IT, and that's great. IT is always part of the sale. But ideally, the person who's going to own Regal, your, you know, point of contact who's going to own this purchase is someone who carries a quota. Someone at the end of the year has to go to their boss and say, yep, my goal at the end of this year was to sell this much in revenue dollars, and this is how I got there, or this is how I exceeded that goal. So you're really thinking like your CRO, your VP of sales, the leader of that outbound team who does have a revenue quota. We're going to go over verticals in just a second. Today, a big focus on those local services. But something to note, again, we're dealing with a smaller subset of the contact center. So the implementation is quick. Our teams have KPIs around really trying to get in there and get up and running in the first 30 days post-sale. The sales cycle is also quick. When you're looking at just branding someone's calls or taking away those spam flags, those are things that can happen in just a couple of days, right? So the ROI is pretty immediate. The implementation is very fast, which is very different from your contact center sales that you're used to, sometimes 6, 8, 12 months long. But this is a great foot in the door of if you're trying to talk to people about their contact center, you don't need to go in there and say, yeah, let's rip and replace this huge Avaya system. No, let's keep that in place at the moment while it's doing what it's doing until the contract maybe is up, for another year or two. But let's peel those outbound agents off and look at, how we can increase their revenue and get these numbers up and running really quickly. So again, over here on the left, you're going to see the verticals that Regal works really, really well for. We've talked about insurance and healthcare on some of these podcasts week to week. Again, today at the bottom, you'll hear more about local services. But again, anyone where there's a high intent, somewhat purchase or decision being made, where we could have a lot of data about the customer coming in. They've come to the website. They frequently visit the website. There's been phone calls made before. Where can we take this data and customize it and personalize it on the outreach? So that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Michael on our sales team, who's going to talk to you guys a little bit about local services.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Mandy. Hey, everybody. Nice to be speaking with you all today. Like Mandy mentioned earlier, I'm on our sales team. I've been with Regal for about little over 2 years at this point. So I've got some great insight into how our home and local services customers are using the platform to really hit their revenue targets more effectively. I think if you just want to think high level, right? Like why has Regal been so successful in home and local services specifically? Because these tend to be really large purchases for the individual consumer. It's the type of thing that, these decisions aren't made lightly, right? And they want that sort of human touch, human personalized connection with that provider who's going to be, you know, redoing their floors, fixing their roof, installing solar panels, whatever it might be that we're talking about, right? So when you think of the Angies of the world or the solar energy worlds of the world or the USA Clean Energies of the world, right? They're selling these like multi-thousand-dollar products to individuals and trying really, really hard to stand out from the competition, right? People are going onto the internet, they're searching around, locally, what is available to me, what are my options? And so as these companies are generating leads, it's harder and harder to stand out from that competition, to be the first person to speak to that consumer, to make that best connection, that best impression, and ultimately drive revenue for the business, right? So today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how USA Clean Energy got started with Regal, and some of the changes that they were able to make in their sort of sales process and sales flow going outbound to all of the leads that they were generating, right? So these folks, they're actually a Utah-based company, so out there where y'all will be for that event tomorrow. And they sell solar into about 5 states today, right? A couple things were going on in sort of their outbound flow and their tech stack that were really, really frustrating for, revenue leadership and operations that they were trying to streamline, right? Primarily, answer rates were low, right? People simply would not pick up the phone. And if you think about it, it's kind of insane, right? You're coming to the website, you're filling out information, you're saying, please call me, but then these individuals are not picking up the phone. So what is going on, right? Um, you kind of think about it in terms of like layers, and as technology evolves, how do we try to fix some of these processes? So you end up having, you know, one system for your CRM where all of your information lives, a different system for your telephony and your voice calling, a different system for texting, right? A different system for email, a different system for transcription of calls and everything like that. So it turns into this sort of exercise in duct tape and chicken wire, trying to stick a bunch of things together, right? So for these guys, right, USA Clean Energy, they ended up having one CRM. They were using NICE and as well as Kixi in terms of dialers for their sales team. They had a completely separate system set up for SMS. And it created a whole bunch of issues. First of all, the call volumes that these folks are doing outbound every month were high enough that they started to get flagged as spam quite often, right? So people weren't picking up the phone for that reason. Right? They really strongly believed in texting as well as part of that outbound strategy. Of course, right? People have their phones on them all the time. We should be texting these individuals. But the texts were coming from different numbers. So I'm texting you from one number, I'm calling you from a different one. If I try to call back to the number that just texted me, it goes out into the void. I'm not able to connect with that person as efficiently as possible. It's confusing for customers, and the systems didn't talk to each other, right? It was impossible for an agent, for a sales rep on the team to go to one place and see, okay, what all conversations, did I have with this individual? What are the last things we sent to this person? How should we be following up? Prioritization of who to call was a very batch and blast type of approach, pulling that list from the CRM and here are your dials for the day. There was no sort of back and forth, no concept of reacting to the data we have about the customer, to the behavior that we're seeing. What are they clicking on? What pages are they converting on? What are they interacting with? Did this aged lead just click an email? Well, hey, we should prioritize that call or that text, things like that. So after, that sort of exercise in trying to stick a bunch of different things together, we ended up connecting with them to address a lot of these issues. So they started using our spam remediation and branded caller ID to let folks know that, hey, it's USA Clean Energy calling, right? Help increase the answer rates there. They are using our Journey Builder as an orchestration engine that in real time prioritize the highest intent leads so that the team is always focusing on, the areas that are going to be most impactful for their day-to-day, their, own attainment and overall the business. Um, you know, hitting those folks, those consumers who are most receptive to that call and a conversation, things like that, combining the numbers into one set of texting and calling numbers rather than just different disparate systems. And then ultimately, what's been really cool to see is because we provide such granular data and insights, they've been able to take what they've learned from their contact strategy and really effectively apply it to the entire team of 80 or so reps, right? So they're measuring the success of different campaigns, different strategies, different scripts even, and applying that to the team. So continually sort of iterating over time. What was really cool to see about this, though, is by combining sort of all these different capabilities and these things that they wanted to do in the first place, it was just hard to implement. Um, with Regal, they were able to increase their connect rate by 24%. So prior to Regal, they were only getting in touch with about 30% of 38% of leads, right? And that's over many, many attempts, right? So the team is spending a lot of time reaching out, calling people who are not picking up the phone. So you're able to increase their answer rate, their efficiency in their outbound dialing, and ultimately that led to a 24% lift in connect rate, right? Um, a few other things of note here that was really exciting to see and impactful for the team. We were able to get them live very, very quickly. It took us 5 days to go live. They were very motivated to fix this problem because if you think about it, right, we're talking to a CRO or VP of sales. Well, they want to hit those numbers, right? Every day we're not addressing the problem is revenue left on the table or walking down the street to a competitor. So they were really motivated and we were able to work in lockstep with them to get them started really, really quickly. um, then bring everything into sort of this omni-channel approach, right? Personalized at scale, and really just allowing the team to work as efficiently as possible, removing a lot of the manual tasks left in their day of logging texts, logging calls, manually typing out texts, right? We were able to virtually remove that from the day to day through our personalization and orchestration engine. um, so everyone's able to handle more work, they're able to work better, more efficiently, and ultimately for consumers, they saw the results in just that raw connectivity. They're able to connect with more of those leads that they're generating.
Yeah, Michael, that's awesome. I mean, this is a great story. I know solar is really up and coming. It's really popular. And just like, Michael said, it's difficult for them to differentiate like why USA Clean Energy versus somebody else who's also selling solar. Just a couple of things I want to call out from what he just said, just so everyone heard them. What's different with Regal, right? That ability to have the phone number and the number that is text messaging be the same number. It's extremely powerful that you can call back that number that just texted you if you want to just hop into that. And that's something that a lot of other, providers don't offer. So that's why you're getting, a call, some random calls all the time, and then a text message from a different number, but then you can't call that back or you don't know who's calling you. So that's extremely important with Regal. Also, you'll see over here the image on the left, right? That idea of in real time, you're able to customize that workflow. That's really important because that's not just, okay, at the end of the day, here are my notes that I'm typing into the system. This is, I can kind of on the fly see what's working, what's not working. So those are big differentiators that, to Michael's point, you see a team like USA Clean Energy go, yeah, no, we need to get this implemented like the same day, essentially. 5 days later, that's huge. Well, that's what we have for you guys today. Are there any questions? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. Cool. Well, thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions that do come up, you can send me an email, get in touch if you'd like to do a deeper dive into a demo of our solution or additional case studies. My email is Mandy, M-A-N-D-I, @regal.io. So we are looking forward to continuing conversations, and we'll be wrapping up our webinar series next week, next Wednesday, same time, with banking and financial services. So thanks, everyone.